All right. We are live. We just are going to get all of our ducks in a row. I'm going to set up Mr. or Mrs. either one. I'm going to try to get let's see. I got to get the chat box up. Here we go. YouTube live control panel. All right, let's get that up. Good. Perfect. All right. So, welcome everyone. This is episode, let's see if she remembers.
12.
Oh, wow. Episode 12 of the You Heard Me podcast. Ducks are in a row, dogs are in a row, everybody's in a row. All right. How do we feel?
My Hope Gables canine representing
Representing.
here. If you want one, reach out.
Reach out.
Pretty cool, pretty comfy.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the things. All the things. As people join, we are going to do our little ranting, our little bickering, talking about all sorts of stuff, right? All right, well, we got a good podcast. We're going to be releasing, actually showcasing some new things that we've been working on. Thank you all for joining. We have a lot of great questions today. We have exciting announcements, so we're going to get right into it. We do have to keep this to 30 minutes today. We have a call with one of our vendors for things that we are sort of announcing already, and you'll see that in a moment. But we have a very important phone call. We're tweaking some things, and you will all see those things soon and benefiting from those. So we're going to get right into it. And the lead-in topic, I didn't do a poll for this week, so because I already had my topic that I wanted to talk about, and it actually comes from...
I was waiting for it to vote.
Yes, and it actually comes from a question that we received from on Instagram, but it was also sort of a recent event as well. And so, oh, great. So people are tuning in, which is lovely. All right. So basically, I want to dive into this topic here, and I want to talk about, I want to talk about in general, and the question specifically, just so I have it correctly. I'm going to pull it up, and I just want to make sure, because we're going to start, we usually don't start with questions. We usually do a lead-in topic, but I want to make sure. My lead-in topic is what I wanted to talk about, and then we got a question of that same thing, and so I'm going to give this person credit because they did ask for us to answer this. So, all right, so I'm going to get through the beginning part of it. So, how do we navigate walking our dogs when multiple neighbors have their dogs out in their yards on electric fences or long leads without supervision? Okay, so I already wanted to talk about this, and I'm glad that we got that question because it actually aligned of what I wanted to spend this podcast talking about. So many people struggle with this issue. Dogs in yards, invisible fences, and this doesn't just happen in neighborhoods. This happens at parks as well. All right. So, I mean, people get rushed by dogs really anywhere. It doesn't have to be at your home. A lot of our clients are frustrated with getting rushed by dogs at a park, downtown, et cetera, right? So, here's my take on this, and I know other trainers share the same take, which is at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and your dog, and that also means that society should be reciprocating that. So what do I mean by doing what's best for you and your dog? Essentially, what I mean by that is you have to be willing to do what it takes to solve your dog's issues. Now, if your dog is the one behaving and you're doing everything in your power to make sure your dog is doing the right thing and somebody else is not, then that has to be a discussion point, right? And we have to talk about that. Now, I've been rushed at parks. I'll be at a public park, and it's a public park, whatever. Yeah. But the dogs are uncontrollable. They're running across the field. They're running across the park. They're chasing you down. You and your dog that are behaving or training or whatever you're doing, minding your own business. I think that's the most important thing. It's we all have to do our part so that we can all live and coexist with our dogs. Now, that doesn't mean that every dog is going to be perfect. That doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect in every situation. It just means that if we all do our best to do the best we can to make sure our dogs can coexist and behave in the real world, not in a controlled environment, but in the real world, then these things wouldn't happen. Obviously, that's the case, that these things do happen. Why do they happen? Well, I got a whole set of opinions on that. And some of them I'm going to hold back because, maybe I won't because that's not my style. But so really at the end of the day, it comes down to all of us doing our part. Now, there are people that don't do their part. So let's talk about that for a moment. Let's talk about the people that don't do their part. Is that fair to everybody else?
No.
No. Okay? It's not fair to everybody else. But is life fair? No, right? What can we do about it? Not a lot. And I have come to terms with that, and so many trainers and owners have, that you're not going to control somebody else and you're not going to change somebody else's perspective. Okay? We all share perspectives, right? Even the owner that's not doing the right thing by their dog by solving their issues also has their own perspective. And now we start getting into, do we respect the perspective of the other person, or do we hold steadfast in what we believe and make sure that the other person knows it? You can go either way. If you know me, I say things nicely once. I say things a little bit nicely the second time. But by the third time, I'm going to start not saying things nicely anymore. That's me. That's not everybody. I'm polite until I'm disrespected. And I think that's totally fair to operate in that capacity. Now, some people are non-confrontational. I certainly try to be non-confrontational.
I'm non-confrontational.
Alyssa's non-confrontational. However, if you need to get a dog off your dog because of the irresponsibility of another owner, okay, and it's a life or death situation, I don't really care what you do to get that dog off your dog because the other person was being irresponsible in the first place, okay? And that's the worst case scenario, is your dog gets attacked and you have to break it up. And that happens, okay? And a lot of people jump right in the middle that could get hurt themselves. These are all problems. Now, are these problems going to go away tomorrow? No. How do we start solving these problems? Because I'm a big fan of solving things, okay? I love solving the world's problem, as Alyssa can attest to. And some problems, as one person, is just not realistic, right? And I've had to come to terms with that myself. However, what you have to do is you have to bring your dog to places where you know that other people are going to be responsible. What are not those places? Dog parks, places that turn into a zoo at 12 p.m. on a Saturday. Probably not the best behaved dogs there. Probably not the best behaved owners either. That's just reality, okay? So I don't go to these places. Why? Because I don't want to get to the third point where I'm not nice. I don't have the energy. I don't have the mind energy, because I'm putting my mind energy on improving the world and improving people's lives and improving people's dogs, that I don't have the time to sit there and duke it out with somebody's perspective that I'm never going to change. And I would recommend that you don't waste your time either on that. You know, and again, everybody shares different perspectives on that, but that's mine. I keep myself out of those situations and my dogs are better for it. Does that mean that it's unfair that you have to avoid certain places because other people aren't doing doing their part? Yes. But that's reality. And you can't change everybody and what they believe and what they think. A lot of people think that your well-behaved dog shouldn't be well-behaved. Oh, Nick, that sounds really weird. Well, it's true. A lot of people, when they see a well-behaved dog, they go, oh, why is that dog in a down? Why aren't they jumping all over and humping that dog over there like my dog is and being rude? That's their perspective. That's what they believe in. And are they wrong for believing in that? My personal opinion, yes, because I'm a dog trainer and I share that opinion and I think that's appropriate. You know, but other people don't have that context. Other people haven't turned dogs around hundreds of times like we have. The people that are being irresponsible, quote unquote, don't have taking dogs coming into their program and leaving completely transformed. So they don't have that context. All right? They don't have that context. And I can't try to force that context on them because they're never going to share my experience and they're never going to share your experience. That's the reality. All right? Do the best you can. Don't go to places if you think you're going to have to be with these types of people. The world is very big. All
it's
right?
unfortunate that
It is unfortunate.
these
But
people that ask the question can't even walk their dog in their own neighborhood.
yeah, well, yes,
Right.
It is. It absolutely is. 100%. So
you're saying to avoid doing that?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you can, yes. And I do want to get back to this person's question because I want to bring it back to the neighborhood. And I know that was very specific to the question being asked. So let's bring it back to the neighborhood aspect of it. Okay. So you're walking around, and this was somebody that actually legitimately asked this question because we ask for questions leading up to the podcast. So this was an actual question we received. And so basically, if you're walking through your neighborhood and this happens to you, okay, you have to protect your dog and your safety. Okay, your safety is very, very, very important. And your dog's is also equally important as well. So safety always comes first. Always. So don't worry about being right in that moment. Don't worry about saying your mind, saying your piece of your mind in that moment. Do what's best for your safety if this occurs. Now, do you want to go, do you want to really duke it out in the middle of the street? Probably not. So I would recommend, if this happens to you, and it's unfortunate, but you're not going to force everybody to have invisible fences that work, and you're not going to force everybody to do the responsible thing, especially in your neighborhood, not just a public park. You have to do what's best for the safety of you and your dog at the end of the day. Now, if it becomes an incessant thing that happens every day, then that's when I would start getting authorities involved. And that's when I would start calling the town officials and whoever is appropriate to make sure that you are not in danger and your dog is not in danger. Because at the end of the day, guess what? If that dog escapes the fence and becomes a danger to everybody else, then that's a problem. And you should not have to avoid walking in your neighborhood because of that reason. And so there are avenues you can take here if this is something that is constantly happening to you. And I have tons of clients that tell me that this does happen in their neighborhood too. All right. So, if it's not a danger situation and, it's one of those things where it happens once a year, maybe don't walk that way. Maybe go to a different way if you can. But if it's an issue where you can't even just have a nice walk in your neighborhood, I would let other people know. I would get your neighbors. I would go to doors and I would get a group going. Force them to become responsible. Force them to become accountable. Don't let them have a choice. And you can, and you have many avenues to do that. So I think that's important. Hopefully that helped. I want to get into some of the other questions. We're gonna have to cut the podcast a little short today, and I apologize, but I do have some other announcements I want to make. And so for those of you tuned in, all right, I always like to do this just as we're talking and streaming. How are we doing? Everything sounding okay? Everything streaming okay? Quality wise? Feedback from our audience is always highly appreciated. And I'm going to make a very special announcement in a moment that I think all of you are going to enjoy.
Exciting.
And it's very exciting. And that's why we have to cut the podcast a little bit short, because we are finishing this project, hopefully. And a lot of you will benefit from that. Oh, great. We have 2 thumbs up, which is nice. Okay, good. So I'm going to announce something that we've been working on for a very long time. And this is the second iteration of something that you probably have all either experienced or witnessed. But I'm going to, without further ado, just kind of show everybody. So this is, and if the camera, just make sure that this is in frame. So this is a rosé that we've been working on. It has our Hope Gables Canine logo. I don't know if everybody can see that in the video. I will post this on our Instagram, but this is our Hope Gables Canine rosé. And why is that important? Because, at the end of the day, we like to be different as a company, and part of that being different is doing things that are unexpected. So yeah, we worked with a vineyard in Napa to design, we worked with a designer, and then a vineyard in Napa helped us bottle and label these. So in time for the summer, it is a rosé. We will be giving this out to our clients. We have a box that this goes with that is absolutely beautiful. I don't have it in front of me right now. But keep an eye out.
Very cool.
It is, yes. I'm so proud of this. And keep an eye out. We will be giving this out to all of you if you're local. If you're not local, we're still trying to figure out shipping. So we will do that as well. We will try to get this to a point where we can ship it. So far we have a Cabernet and now we have a rosé for the summer. We are also working on beach towels to go that are the color of this bottle for summer as well. So those of you that are beach goers and things like that, you want to bring your wine to the beach. I don't think
have a little happy hour.
Have a little happy hour, or
wine and cheese,
or in your backyard. With your dog running around and you're working on their recall and you're taking a little sippy do. That works too.
On the barbecue.
Couple sippy doos, couple recall exercises. Hey, I don't judge.
Couple hamburgers.
I don't judge. So that is a big announcement that, again, we've been working on that for quite a while now, and I'm super proud of that. And I'm super proud of everybody's efforts to make that come into fruition. So we have that coming. There is a Chardonnay on the deck. So we're going to have 3 varieties, a Chardonnay, a Rosé, a Cabernet, and they will be offered to all of you. So I'm super excited to announce that. And that will be coming. I mean, there are mostly already available, so those will be getting sent out and delivered over the next 1 to 2 weeks. So very exciting. So that's one of the announcements. We have other announcements happening. Ebooks. We are launching our very first ebook in the next week or so. It will be printed and digital, so you can download it. It is going to be the introduction to how to use leash pressure and how to condition a prong collar. Very highly effective, reliable tools if you know what you're doing. And the ebook is going to walk you through it step by step with photos. And so that's our first ebook launching. We will be announcing that on our Instagram. We have other ebooks coming as well, and those will be trickling over the course of the next 3 months. So super exciting things that are happening. I'm so excited for those to be happening, and a lot of good stuff. Our board and trains are doing amazing. They're doing phenomenal. Every group does phenomenal, and we're super proud of all of them as well. So, and we're already booking into September, October. So if you know somebody that's looking for a board and train, reach out to us now, because our year is going to be fully booked out before we know it. So those are just some announcements. I do want to get into at least a few questions, and then so this way we can obviously, and any questions that we don't get to, we'll go to the next podcast as well. All right.
Okay.
So let's dive into the first few, and we'll see how far we can get.
What are your thoughts on the pet corrector? A trainer of ours recommended it for our dog to stop jumping.
All right, so the pet corrector. So for those of you at home, the pet corrector, if you don't know, is a basically compressed air in a can, right? So you can get it off of Amazon, and I think it's like $30 or something. Basically, it's like the same idea of you cleaning your keyboard. That's like it's like compressed air, right? And everybody at home is probably like, how are you going to use that? Well, a pet corrector just makes a ch sound. Okay, it goes ch, right? It makes a that kind of sound. Okay, so why is that important? So basically, if your dog is sound sensitive and your dog jumps, I guess this individual was asking a question about particular to jumping. I feel like we got a jumping question on every podcast, which is fine. But the intention of that is you're introducing a interruption of that behavior. So dog jumps, you don't spray it at them. You put it like behind your back and you make the noise, and then your dog stops jumping if they're sound sensitive and whatnot. You don't want to use it on an overly sensitive dog. You want to. There's a very specific dog that will respond to that type of correction. It is not a dog that's overly sensitive to sound. And when I say overly, I mean they hear a sound and they just go into the other room. That's not effective. And so we don't use them in our programs. And because there's a very specific dog that responds to it, and we only use things that we can adjust depending on the personality. And you can't adjust the pet corrector for the personality. It's just one intensity of that sound. And there are dogs that you do that and they're like, huh, what? And like they look at you funny, but they don't stop doing the behavior. So either way, it's not really effective, and we don't use them very often. So anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on the current state of dog training, and how is it affecting dog owners? Seems like there's a lot of infighting lately.
Well, there's always infighting. I mean, I don't know which dog trainers at any given time. If you ask me who's arguing with who, I have literally no idea, nor do I care. There's always something, and it is what it is, right? This dog trainer doesn't agree with this dog trainer, and vice versa. And then they get into an argument, and then the argument goes on to 4 other dog trainers, and then they get into arguments. It is the disease of the dog training world. It really is. And I don't like getting in. I'm please just don't bother me with it. And not to say that I won't speak on it if I'm asked, but I certainly don't pile on either. And even if I don't agree with the person, man, that energy is just better spent elsewhere. And honestly, I don't even comment on Instagrams that are non-dog training related that I don't agree with. You think I'm going to comment and no. It's just, I don't know. So what is with the infighting? There's just always infighting. It's because dog trainers don't agree on anything. That's why. And why? How is it? The crappy part about it is it just creates more confusion for the owner, because the owner's like, oh, who do I listen to? The guy with this many followers, the guy with this many followers, or this person has more followers and this one does. I mean, that's why you don't see me. I promote information. So yeah.
What do you think I should look for in a board and train program?
Ooh, good question. So definitely do your research. When we sent Layla away to her board and train, we looked at reviews, we researched, we called around,
Asked
questions, make a list of questions that you want to ask. Make sure you're all aligned on those questions. So don't like spend an hour by yourself and then do another hour and like your significant other has 30 other questions for the trainer.
Right.
Try to like
align on your priorities.
Align on your priorities. I know this is about what to look for a board and train, but if you approach a board and train company with your ducks in a row, you'll be more successful. So I think it's also about how you approach the board and train.
Then you know what you want
exactly.
to ask,
right?
And then you'll get the answers to the questions you're looking for.
Yes, but yes, I agree. Alyssa makes all very good points. But what to look for in a board and train? Do you remember when we were doing? I mean, this seems like forever ago, but from Alyssa's point of view,
I think
what were you looking for?
Knowledge. Like we obviously didn't know what to do, where to turn, and we went through several options before finding that board and train was an option, right? So when we were calling around looking for a board and train, or actually I think we were just looking for a trainer and came upon this board and train program, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like the knowledge that the trainer had, because we didn't know anything about what was going on or why it was going on, and that person being able to answer those questions and being like, well, she's doing this because of this, and this is how I would fix that.
Right.
Or this is how I would work on it with her. That kind of like opened us up to this whole new thing, and we were like very impressed by it.
Yeah, and Alyssa put that very eloquently, and I agree with her. It's you define when you talk to the board and train, whoever answers the phone, you define how skilled they are by how they explain their approach. And so we spend tons of time when we get a phone call. We're not rushing the person off the phone. I've had phone calls. The first phone call, they gone 2 hours.
Yeah, hours.
So hey, I mean, but that's fine because I'm very generous with my time when people are struggling, and I think that speaks volumes. So if somebody does that with you, I think it just speaks volumes to their character and how much they're willing to help you. Because if they do that and you didn't even pay them yet, likely it's going to go well. If they're like rushing you off the phone.
I was just going to say, don't let them rush you off the phone.
Yeah, I mean, they're within reason, but like, no. I mean, if they're like, hey, they're distracted, they seem unorganized.
Short answers to your questions.
All red flags. But yeah, that was, I agree. So I think we have time. Let's do one more question.
Okay.
What do we got?
Is there anything we can do to stop our dog from digging? We have holes in our garden, and it's driving us nuts. Nothing we've tried works.
All right. Yeah. So the digging the hole is just another behavior, just like jumping, that you need to interrupt and stop. And how do you stop a behavior? We talk about this on every podcast. It's a 2-second protocol. You correct your dog. You tell them you don't like that behavior. An e-collar is very effective for this. Your dog is digging. No. Correction. Make sure your dog is digging when they receive the correction so they connect the dots. You don't necessarily have to say no because sometimes you may not be outside, but just make sure that the correction is timed. I would not rush into doing that. I would at least do some e-collar conditioning first, which is we're a big fan of. That's why we keep dogs for 4 weeks at a time. So we don't just jump in and start correcting and tapping buttons.
They're not going to know what the heck.
Yeah, I mean, well, they will connect the dots, but it's always better when you can condition it because they'll connect the dots
faster.
They'll learn faster. But if you just throw it on and just start correcting behaviors, you're going to go through a longer process. And so I'm always a big advocate of like do the e-collar conditioning, at least do some of it, and definitely hire a trainer to guide you through this. But yes, that would be a correction with an e-collar, and it's it's just your dog's digging, correct. Your dog is going to connect the dots. They're not going to dig as much. And you just have to be consistent. And I think that's really important. You have to be consistent. Just correcting it once, and then your dog digs for 5 more days, and then you correct it again. Your dog digs for 5 more days, and you correct it again. That's not going to do it either. So there is no magic tool that solves all your dog's problems. You have to match the tool with your consistency, and then you're going to see the beauty of the tool. If you use the tool with inconsistency, you're going to see the confusion in your dog, and then you're going to blame it on the tool. But is it the tool, or is it in the inconsistency of the tool, or is it not taking the time to learn how to teach the tool? And that is a large discussion that we will definitely have at some point. And I think that's really appropriate. Maybe we dive into that a little bit more in our next podcast. But boy, oh boy, this demonization of training tools really needs to stop, because it's not the training tool. A lot of times, and talk to any trainer that's been using training tools long enough, a lot of times it's inconsistency. It's not properly timed corrections. It's the improper usage of the tool that creates problems, not the proper usage. I think that's really, really important to understand for those of you that are getting into this stuff for the first time. Make sure you're either hiring a trainer or you really have the time to teach it. Because if you don't, I wouldn't even go down that road. And that's why we only teach e-collars in our board and train, because most households, I'm not saying all, but most, don't have the time that we do. We do this for a living, that can just sit with their dog 3 times a day, or more every day for 7 days. That's really what's required to teach an e-collar. And I'm slightly exaggerating a little bit, but it is complex.
No, I think that is how much time you spend.
Well, thank you. I do agree. I mean, I say that because I don't want to discourage people, because I don't want people like, oh my God, I don't have that type of time. I mean, you can do it. You just have to be consistent, and you have to put the time in. And I'm not saying that necessarily you have to put as much time, although we put a lot of time into our board and trains, and that's why they come out so well. But our standard is, we have a high standard, and that's why we get the results that we do, and that's why we get the the reviews that we do, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes at home, if you're just looking to correct one thing, or you're looking to teach one thing, you don't have to put all that. Again, you get what I'm saying, but it does definitely take time, because it's a learning curve. It's a brand new tool, and you're gonna have to make sure you can set aside that time to learn.
You're learning.
Exactly, just like anything you're learning, like pickleball.
Yeah, it would probably take you way longer to learn it than me, because
Yes.
I'm way more athletic
Yes.
than you are.
Yes,
I have better eye-hand coordination.
I will take that one. Okay. Well, I again, this is the You Heard Me podcast. We will be coming to you next week, and I'm so excited to continue to share announcements like these with you. We will definitely, any questions we didn't get to today, we will answer next week. We love you all. I appreciate you all. I know that you're taking time out of your Thursday to be here with us. I do not take that lightly. And so we will see you next week, 8 p.m., the You Heard Me podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me, my beautiful wife.
Thank you.
Which I missed.
You forgot to say that.
I missed my intro in the beginning, although I caught myself before we end. So thank you all. See you next week. We're out.